What's good? I'm Cutta Classics. I'm a producer, engineer, musician, and entrepreneur out of Castle Rock Studios in Dale City, Oklahoma.
Oh man. All my haters be watching.
They watching.
They see the way I be popping.
No stopping me.
I'm turned up like a rocket.
A rocket.
Dripping like I'm a faucet.
Got options.
Tell them haters to watch it.
Watch it.
Sit in the front and talk shit that motivates me.
So I've been producing and engineering, I would say a little bit, almost 20 years now. I got started at a very young age. I think I walked into my first studio around the age of 11, 12, 13, somewhere around there. And I've been crafting my skills, and developing my skills ever since then. I think what it takes to be a well-respected engineer and producer nowadays is you have to be willing to commit and put in the time, to develop your craft. When I first started, it was more so I came into it as an artist slash beat maker, and once I walked into my first real studio, I seen how the engineer was turning knobs and how he was bringing my sound out. And so from there, I kind of gravitated towards that, because I said, well, I like dealing with different sonics of making beats and, the songs. I like how the sonic frequencies, can actually make or break the song. I study people like Dr. Dre, Timbaland, and Teddy Riley and cats like that they created waves and they changed radio for their era. Until today, they still stand the test of time. The music is still good no matter what era, no matter when you listen to it. The eras that they were really heavy in the game and as far as running the industry with their sound, I think that's some of the things I used to study. Nowadays, you hear about a different producer and engineer every week or every year. It's somebody new coming out hot. But I tend to gravitate towards the ones that's been doing it over a long period of time. And I respect all the ones that's making a name for themselves. And just like me, it's always things that you can learn. I'm constantly learning, so my work is never done. Every day I mix a record or I record a song, I learn something new. So to answer the second part of your question, I think it's just committing the time and, just developing your skills, getting with other engineers and just bouncing different ideas, learning different techniques, learning theory. Right now, you gotta be able to do everything. You gotta be able to produce a record. You gotta be able to program a track. You gotta be able to halfway be able to mix it to kind of get your vision across. If I'm doing a record and I don't want to mix it, I gotta be able to paint the picture with what I already have going on. So that's basically putting down a rough mix to deliver to whoever else is gonna mix it, so they have an idea on what the song could sound like. Well, legally, it's just a matter of just protecting yourself. I think as aspiring engineers and producers, you gotta know the basics, study, learn the business, especially the business around your craft and what you're trying to do. The entertainment business is, it has no feelings. It's dog eat dog. I think you need to study the business and learn the business and understand how you can make money in this business, you know, because there's multiple ways as an engineer, as a producer, as a beat maker, as a musician, for you to be able to make money in this business. But you have to really apply yourself and really dive into it to figure out what different avenues you can take. I mean, I've always had my own rig. You know, I'm just like anybody else, man. I started out in the closet, you know, and I was just, you know, I was blessed to be able to meet different individuals that put me into a real situation to where I can develop my skills on another level. I mean, the early days, I had my Kurzweil 2000, a little RY rhythm programming, and a boombox, and, you know, cassette tapes. So, you know, I used to have a lot of people lined up at my house waiting on beats. So I was slinging $30 beat tapes, you know, right out of, you know, in high school, and I would use that money to go pay for studio time. And because, you know, all the OGs that had the studios, you know, at that point, you know, it was just like, it was business. And then I think once people start seeing my hustle and how, you know, how bad I wanted it, that's when they started opening the doors and started bringing me in and started mentoring me in these real studios. So it was, you know, it's work, but I didn't look at it like work. I just looked at, okay, this is what I love to do anyway. You know, I'm a hustler anyway, so I'm gonna figure out how to make it work. And apparently everybody was liking the sound I was doing when I was in high school, so it just made sense. Okay, I'm at the, you know, I'll be at lunch and I'm making beats at lunch. And now, by the time I leave school, I didn't make $200-300. By the time I got home, because I got people lined up at the doorstep waiting on beat tapes, my mother come home and she'd be like, "Man, what's with all these people at the house?" I'm in my closet banging out beats, slanging tapes. So, you know, it's just.
That's a dope hustle.
But see, that was a different time, and, you know, it wasn't no internet. It was really hand-to-hand combat, you know, with just getting out here really, you know, in these streets and, you know, making a name for yourself. There's certain principles and rules that when I was coming up that I think can still be applied. I feel like it needs to be applied to this, you know, now you got the internet. It's so easy to get your content out to everybody. But there's still those grassroots principles that I still think that people forget about. And I think if you combine the two, the grassroots with the new age internet stuff going on, then I think people will start to see more results. I wouldn't say quicker, but I think people would appreciate the grind a little bit more. You
Because
know?
they have to work for it.
You gotta work for it, you know. I was always gonna do music. That's just always been a part of my DNA from a kid. It wasn't until like 17 years old, man, and I had, I don't know, a lot of people probably won't even remember this cat, but you remember Candyman?
Yeah.
Remember Candyman? That, ooh, boy, I love you so. So anyway, my partner JoJo and DJ Romeo and, man, there was a bunch of other cats that showed up at my house, and they was trying to come get some beats. And I knew who he was, but I didn't realize it, you know. And so once they got to playing everything that he had did, I was like, oh, okay, this is dude. So now I got people, I'm 16, 17 years old, and I got people coming in from all over to my house. I'm in my room in my house, and they buying beats from me. So then, I think then it started to spark, okay, this is a business. So now I started to understand, okay, I can really take this a little further. You know, right at that age, you're just doing it for fun. And then as I'm working through the years, I'm meeting different people, and, you know, so now I'm starting to see, and then I started to study, your Dr. Dre's, your Timberlands, and how they're able to sustain and make money in this industry, and change the way radio sounds. So then that just kind of naturally became, okay, this is something. That's what I want to do. I aspire to be what Timberland is to the industry. He changes radio every time he drops. Like I said before, Teddy Riley, the New Jack Swing, Dr. Dre, with gangster music, So I always said, when I'm producing, that's how I want to do. I want to be able to change the way people listen to music. I think it's just about how bad you want it, and it's hard, At this point, it's still hard, but if you put the time in and you work, I think a lot for me, I was traveling a lot. I traveled outside of Oklahoma. I built different relationships with people, and I was able to work on different projects and learn how businesses operated behind the scenes. And so learning that, I bring that same grind back home, and I'm trying to implement that now at the level I am into the culture we have now, because I think there's a lot of people that don't travel outside of here. I think that's the biggest thing you can do, especially in the entertainment business. It's cool to be dope, be popular here within the city limits, but relationships are built outside of here. And I pride myself on being able to have good relationships, and anybody speaking on me, that I take pride in it, for them to be able to speak on my name and it be a positive. There's a lot of people in this business that burn bridges, hard to work with, don't make them bad people, but relationships are everything. On the financial level, sometimes it's just about having the right relationship to send you the right gig, And like I said, you just got to put the work in. You got to put the work in. There's some long nights when you're not sleeping, You got to do the sessions that you really don't want to do. You know what I'm saying? The sessions that man, this shit's garbage. This is trash. But you got to suck it up and be like, okay, I got to do it, because number one, sometimes it's, I got to pay my light bill, I got to pay my phone bill, you got to make ends meet. On the other hand, it's, no, this is part of the process. I got to go through this. I got to find a way to get better by making this trash sound like something decent, So you got to find a positive in everything, even if it's something you don't want to do, you got to suck it up. It ain't always fun. It ain't always play, So if you're good with that, then I think, if you can accept that, then shit, there's nothing you can't do in this business. I say this. I was actually contemplating moving out of Oklahoma. That's kind of what my mind was for a while. Was okay, I did everything I can do here, and it had been that way for a couple of years. At the time, it was, I've done everything I can do in the situation I was in, and to me it was like, okay, it's time for a change. I need to move around and go to these other markets and kind of utilize my resources and relationships. I'd always heard about Castle Rock, I just hadn't never been over here. And then one day I decided to take a meeting over here, and pretty much my man, he just kind of laid the red carpet out for me. At first I was like, okay, it's cool. Maybe it feels a little too good to be true. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure. My mind was already set on something else, and I wasn't sure how that was gonna work. And then, I'm a spiritual person, so I pray all the time, so I was just believing that with me and my grind, that I would come across something that would make sense for me to stay here. And if not, I would come across something that, put me in a position to wherever I need to be for me to grow. So when I took the meeting over here, a couple weeks later, I just kind of was just thinking about it. I hadn't made no decision yet. and I ended up having a session that I ran into some difficulties with as far as being able to pull the session off. And I called my people. I called my man Garrett, and I was like, hey man, I got the session, this is the situation. He was like, man, come on over here, bring the session over here, and let's get it done. And from then on, it was like, it was so easy, it was smooth. And then I started to realize, okay, now I got a team of people I can work with, you know, that we all kind of share the same vision. So then once those questions to me got answered, then it was like, okay, then I'm starting to see more and more talent, more and more engineers and beat makers that are coming through here. So I'm like, okay, I can help these other cats develop their skills, you know, and that will not only help me in the long run, but it will help the rest of the market here, the culture. You know, if we can develop a team of heavy hitters right from our home base, and everybody be skilled in production, beat making, engineering, mixing, you know, why not help, you know, mentor some of these other producers and engineers, help them develop their skills. That way we can develop this whole music scene here. You know what I'm saying? And so I think for me being over here just for almost a year and a half now, I think you can definitely tell a difference with the culture here as far as the music industry here. I think you can see a big difference just within a year. It looks totally different than it did a year ago. Social skills and being able to communicate with people, you know, communication. Because once you get past the technical, it's how do you relate to other people? Do you know how to maintain the vibe in the room? Do you know how to set the vibe in the room? Do you know when to speak and when not to speak? When to help and when not to help? When just to sit back and just kind of let things play out? Because doing this, you deal with all different kinds of people from every walk of life. You know, a lot of times it just takes, you got to go through stuff in life to kind of know how to kind of be able to relate to other people. Sometimes you can't just be a very egotistical, you know, headstrong person in the room with the artist that's already like that, because you got to understand this is almost like therapy for him. The artist is at his most vulnerable state once he's in that booth. So it's just one of those things. I think communication skills and social skills is one of the biggest things to develop. Like I said, if you can't communicate with people in the room the right way, then it's going to be hard for them to even be comfortable with you recording the song. They're not going to want to open up to you and, you know, do what it takes to make the song the best it could be. I'll say this, I'm still looking for my favorite artists to work with. I work with a lot of people. Just recently, you know, I worked with Lil Baby, Ray J, Lil Boosie, 24 Hours. And when you're working with cats like that, you know, they're working with other people in these bigger markets. So when they come into Oklahoma, they have a perception. And I take pride in changing that perception. You know, when they come in, you know, not knowing what all Oklahoma has to offer. So it's a perception that y'all don't know what y'all doing out there.
Yeah.
But not knowing that, you know, once you come in and then you work with somebody like me and you be like, oh, he know what he's doing. I can work with him. So now you're changing the perception of how people think about what's going on here. Now, that's not always the case. Some people come in and they can be complete assholes. And sometimes you gotta call them on their shit, you know? So it's just one of those, I don't get, when I work with famous people or whatever you wanna call it, I don't get too high. I don't get too high, but you try to be. I try to make them as comfortable as you can. That way, your skills show. The work you do with them, that'll show quicker than anything that you can say, anything you're trying to sell them on. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I work with a lot of artists as far as this market. Working with Meant to Be, Jay French, JB. I mean, you name them. I mean, just so many to name. That's just a few of them. I'm working with a lot of people, and I'm helping mentor a lot of artists as well. Their sound and sonics, and so that's the stuff I enjoy doing. But like I said, I can't say I have a favorite artist right now, but there's ones I like working with more than I do the others. That's for sure. First person I would say would be my guy Cutta. He was the one that took me under his wing and put me in. He took me under his wing and kind of really made me lock in and focus on my craft on a technical level, on the technical side. That would be somebody I will always respect for him, just seeing a young teenager that was kind of running wild in the streets and say, nah, there's something else in you. I hear it, I see what you're doing, I see what you can do. And he pulled me away from a lot of what I was involved into and put me in the studio. And I've been doing it ever since. And then I would say his mentor, Hamza Lee. Hamza, he works, I still work with Hamza today. He works here in Castle Road. He kind of picked up from where Cutta left off at. Those two is like my biggest mentors as far as engineer, producer, and then, I've always studied, like I said, Dr. Dre, Timbaland, Swiss Beats, Kanye, Teddy Riley, Quincy Jones, DJ Quicks, all them cats from the 90s until now that stood the test of time. I've always studied them, and they've always been like somewhat of a mentor, even though I haven't been able to work with a lot of these cats, but I've always inspired to do what they've done as far as on a production level, on a business level, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But yeah, those are some of the influences and stuff that I always looked up to.
That's it. I appreciate you. Is there anything you'd like to say to close it out?
I mean, it is what it is, Keep it, stay solid. Work, don't be lazy, earn it. Earn everything you got coming to you, Don't look for no handouts, put the work in. Build your relationships. Relationships is everything. And then develop your craft. Study the business. That's it.
Appreciate it.
I'd like to say I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Chris Cutta, for the interview. We have more to come. I have another interview that I did with Lil Baby that I'm gonna drop after this. And continue to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. Help us get these views up. I'm telling you, we're going to drop bang after bang after banger. And if you ain't learned nothing today, you should learn build relationships, work hard, don't ask for a handout, and study your craft. All right, we out.
You can try to stop me, you gon' find a way to eat. Bitch, I'm about to eat. The team gon' eat. Bitch, we gotta eat. You with me to eat. Grew up on outcasts, I don't wanna fit in. And you can't sit down if you don't pitch in. My spot so loyal, ain't no fucking switching. So if I'm eating, then we all gon' win. Hungry like I haven't ate. Gotta eat now, I can't wait. Since that's all I wanna come taste. So when I shit come with steaks. Killing shit out of my state. This Mr. B, this is not a mistake. If you let me